Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Re-Tifos, where I take old stories I've narrated and update into modern audio standards. This one is called Betty Bob's Space Trucker and is part of a series. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Caste matriarch Elizabeth approached the entrance to her private hunting reef. Her servants had released a few Veruvian slugs and some hallucid otters in the large underwater chamber for her to hunt. Technically, they were semi-intelligent creatures on a path for full intelligence, but the Crustacan matriarchs had blocked all attempts to change their status from unprotected wildlife to the much more strictly regulated, potentially intelligent species list. They were simply too tasty, not to mention that it was more fun to hunt something a bit smarter than usual. For her specifically, she enjoyed the fear in their eyes before she ended them. You only got that with something that had a glimmer of personality behind those eyes. Her favorite was, of course, their ancient nemesis, the Libertonians. She had been a juvenile when she tasted them in the last Galactic War. They had resisted the idea of a galactic government that regulated and suppressed species to operate at around an equal level of capability, in order to make things fair. The Libertonians argued for more freedom, less regulations, and why shouldn't they? They were stronger, faster, smarter, and they could fly. She wasn't ashamed to admit her species was jealous of their ability to fly. Who, among the galactic community, wasn't jealous of those who could stretch their wings and take off into the sky? The Crustacans could breathe both water and air and swim the ocean depths with ease, but to fly? It had been difficult for them to convince the other races to fall in line and agree to regulation. After all, only the exceptional suffered. And the thing about being exceptional, they were the exception. And few species could contain their jealousy of a species that was superior to them. They fought valiantly, but in the end, they were defeated by sheer numbers. The Crustacans' greatest victory was in keeping their nemesis alive, however, in reducing them to a single colony off their home planet and a bare minimum fleet, to force them to watch the galaxy continue as they were left powerless. They refused to be entirely beaten, of course, which was why, from time to time, the matriarch got to dine upon a spy or a diplomat that went missing. Being the galaxy's secret police had its advantages in acquiring the rarest of food, especially if eating such food was against a dozen different regulations and laws. Somehow, that made the meal tastier. Her mandibles quivered in anticipation of her feast tonight. But before she could open the hatch and begin her hunt, she heard the vidscreen chime at her. Normally she'd ignore it, but this was the screech of her emergency line. The matriarch hissed in annoyance and moved over to the vidscreen, turning it on with her foreclaws. "What?" she hissed out and saw Caste Leader Cleroy cower for a moment. "I'm sorry, matriarch, but there have been more developments with the Libertonian diplomat." All 12 of her eyes narrowed as she examined the screen and the Caste Leader looking out at her. The one with the copy of the suppression device, you mean? The one who could possibly end the galaxy as we know it. The one traveling alone to try and avoid detection and should have been captured cycles ago. The one who is trying to make it to the capital for the Grand Council. That diplomat. Is this the diplomat you speak of, Cleroy? As if there was any other diplomat that I have ordered you to track. Is this that diplomat that you're referring to? The same diplomat that has found a Death World mercenary that killed a hunter-killer squad and injured Caste Leader B-Robbo. There was a pause as Cleroy waited, unsure if the matriarch was going to continue. Yes? Oh well, now that I know which diplomat you're referring to, what is it? The Death Worlder is a grave threat, and we can't find them. They haven't been stopping at refueling stations, but the ship only has a single pilot. We're unsure how they're avoiding detection, but I assure you that we're doing our best to track them down. Clearly, your best isn't good enough. Have all available Caste leaders in the sector patch into this mission. Criminals, smugglers, pirates, they all take a back seat to this diplomat. Yes, matriarch, but about the Death Worlders. I think it's a mistake to start moving against their extrasolar colonies. This American subspecies seems to be truly independent of their larger government, which has been cooperative so far. Cleroy, I wasn't aware that you doubled in size, grown 6 new limbs, 8 eyes, and changed your reproductive organs. When did this happen? Gar's leader was clearly confused. I haven't, matriarch? Oh, so you're not a matriarch then? No, matriarch. Then why are you questioning our decision? The council has decided the easiest way to end this situation is to start conquering colonies and threatening to kill filthy humans until the mercenary surrenders the diplomat. If you don't want that to happen, then find her on your own. But, matriarch, the new footage I found, if you read the report, it is clearly fake, Cleroy. Such a species can't exist. Nothing that strong is that small, and even if they are good fighters, we can use our police action to justify a full galactic war against them. We defeated the Libertonians. We can stop these humans. And if you can't find this mercenary, it's clearly because he's terrified. Likely cowering in some hole like the vermin he is, soiling himself in fear as our hunter-killers close in on him. There will be no mercy for this Billy Bob space trucker. Why would you sign up for this contest? Because I'm a shoo-in. Doesn't translate. Because I can't lose. They've based this on human dancing from the mid-1900s, as far as I can tell. I listen to this music all the time, and I'm a good dancer. I crushed those space fleckos at the refueling station, remember? I think your translator isn't properly calibrated. Yeah. They were supposed to be good dancers, right? And they got beat so bad they tried to attack me. And then I knocked them flat. Billy Bob, this competition is supposed to be for groups. You'll have to do all the dances solo. You can't tell me that... Oh, right, yes. Your species has incredible endurance. Okay. Well, you're supposed to have costumes. Did you think about that? Where are you? Emily stopped, looking around as she remembered that they were in the middle of a black market station. You need me to buy you some things, don't you? Please? It's a bit of a rush, but it's simple stuff. I have a few pieces I keep in my truck for Halloween. I just need to get a few items to complete some others. Don't you have money? Most of it went to fuel. I was supposed to get paid in real credits by those space hippies. You should know the space hippies use real credits as little as possible. Hey, I'm new to the galaxy. I know. Come on, Emily. Please. No, please, come on. Billy Bob, please, pretty please. With the cherry on top, come on. I'll let you take whatever we win, unless it's a trophy. I get that. You won't let this go, will you? Not a chance. Fine. But you have to promise to do what I want at the next stop. Yeah, Billy Bob grinned. Deal. I swear whatever you want. Emily sighed out and handed him her trade cube before he turned and rushed off to whatever store he found costumes in. She returned to the restaurant and sighed out. The waiter had left their drinks on the table, and she sat heavily, taking a sip of the hot beverage she'd ordered. She couldn't believe the energy Billy Bob had. He was downright manic when he discovered something that excited him. If this was how adult humans behaved, what were their children like? She shuddered at the thought. It was a few minutes before he returned with a big smile on his face as he handed the cube back to her and sat down. She shook her head as he sipped at his own drink. Then he waved the waiter down, asked for a bunch of ice, and once he got it, dropped a few chunks of ice into the tea to cool it off further. Then he drank it all in one go as Emily stared. How do you drink so much caffeine at once? Doesn't it make you sick? What? No, this is just like 1 cup of tea. You don't know anything about caffeine until you're drinking a Super Space Extreme Triple Caffeine Express Mocha with extra cream. But She frowned and shook her head. I don't want to know what that is. It is a crap ton of caffeine, sugar, chocolate, and cream. And then usually some whiskey, because that really warms you up. Human diets are so strange. You can just process large amounts of caffeine? Yeah, I mean, if I'm drinking regular stuff, I can't drink enough to kill me. Unless I'm holding it in with my bladder bursts, but that's a dumb way to kill myself. She blinked a bit, her mask blank as she tried to figure out how to proceed. And you also intake capsaicin? Yeah, depending on what kind of food you're eating. Latin stuff, some Asian things. But I say stay away from anything made by Indians. Far as I can tell, they're just pissed at how much beef we eat, so they don't actually make food. Then... They make puree terrorism that leads to gut-wrenching ass explosions. It makes you feel like you're crapping fire, Emily grimaced. The kind of screaming craps that turns atheists into religious fanatics begging any god who will listen for mercy. Ah, Billy Bob, what? I'm not the one who tries to pass off that dog diarrhea as food. Billy Bob, stop. She gasped out, two of her hands covering her face, the other two gesturing as she tried to drive the images from her head. She was fairly sure her translator wasn't even getting the right words. What it sounded like was making her sick. There is no way that's accurate. You've never had Indian food, I'm telling you. Those vegetarians can hold a grudge for eating their sacred animal. Stop, enough. You'll make me sick. She shrugged at that and waved over the waiter to order another spiced tea. Emily sighed out and shook her head as he looked at her. Tell you what, why don't I treat you to some real American cooking? Real old classic stuff. The things I had when I was a kid and my mom wanted to feel warm and comfy. Emily paused at that and slowly nodded. That sounds interesting, actually. Good. Can you handle dairy? Well, I won't know until I eat it, will I? Good point. All right, I'll go talk to the chef, see if he's got the stuff in stock. He paused and looked at Emily. She looked back. He stood there, staring at her without speaking. She was about to ask what, then sighed and pulled a cube back out, setting it into his hand. Thanks. Emily sat at her seat, wondering just what she was getting herself into. It took about 10 minutes before he returned with 2 plates and 2 bowls. She tried to figure out what she was looking at. Squares of bread and, the soup sort of looked like, it couldn't be filled with blood, could it? Grilled cheese with bacon and Texas toast with tomato soup and sour cream. Oh, so it's not blood. What? No, Jesus. It's just some mashed up plants and herbs and stuff. Apparently, human food is a huge seller with the underground omnivore and carnivore markets. The space gobbers are spreading it through their stations already. Space gobbers? You humans shorten everything, don't you? Yep. He sat down, pulling his square apart as she saw the strings of yellow, with some sort of reddish crispy something inside of it. He dunked part of it into the soup and then bit the portion off, grinning as he clearly enjoyed it. Emily slowly dipped a corner of her own square into the soup, removing her mask after glancing around for a moment, and then snapping at the corner. She quickly opened her mouth, gasping and waving her hand in front of it while he laughed. Sorry, it's kind of hot. She nodded and took a sip of her water before she settled down and thought it over. That's, pretty good. He smiled and dunked another bit of his, well, now it was a triangle. Either way, he dunked it and held it in the air. She looked at him, and he wiggled it in the air for a moment, and slowly she dunked part of hers before holding it up. He bumped her square with his triangle. Cheers! They made the rest of it then, bit by bit, as hers cooled off a bit more. There were a couple moments where she tried to pull away a piece, and the yellow stuff just kept following her, which had Billy Bob laughing as she tried twisting and turning it to get it to stop following her head. He didn't let her finish her square, though, and instead had her drink up the soup until just the last bits were sticking to the bowl. Then he showed her how to scrape off the last of the soup with the last of her square. So that's an American meal? One of them. Classic stuff from when I was a kid. Hell, the first thing I learned to make myself was grilled cheese, 'cause microwaving hot dogs doesn't count. He laughed for a moment, and Emily felt rather full and satisfied. Well, if that's your style of cooking, I think I wouldn't mind it, but not all the time. Your meals are rather large for my kind. I'll make you a smaller portion next time. Don't want you getting sick. She smiled at that and shook her head. You're full of surprises. Your species is small, yet intensely strong. Your endurance is off the charts, and your diet. You can fight, fly, and cook reasonably well. She shook her head again. Not to mention you're one of the battle dance species. Well, we aren't really. I just learned how to dance really well, 'cause I like it. We have a few cultures that dance before the battle, but they mostly lost to guys who just shoot them instead of letting them finish. Aside from sports, I mean. Not legal to shoot the home team as they dance around. She wasn't quite sure if he was serious or not. What kind of war do you engage in? Total. What? Total war, mostly. Every so often it's just armies against armies out in fields and stuff. Worked that way for a while. But plenty of times, and especially after America became independent nations, fought for keeps, destroying everything and couldn't keep, ravishing supply lines, starving whole countries. Feck, the Russians play for keeps. They burn their own crap just to spite the guys invading them. And people still kept trying to invade. They'd burn their own land, and towns and supplies, whatever they couldn't take and defend. If they could time it properly, they'd burn it with the enemy advancing into the fire. This from a country that's snow for most of the year. Emily frowned at that. Trudy? Well, it's fucking cold. -40 in the winter, I think. She balked at that. What? But your species is okay in standard temperature. Yeah. I mean, California, where I'm from, is often in the low hundreds in the summer. She gasped again. What? Your species just survives fine in both -40 and low 100s? In Fahrenheit. I'm not sure if your translator is loaded with that, or space metric. -40 is actually the same in both. I think the high end would be space metric. He squinted a bit as he tried to remember. 50? Maybe. Mid-40s. Oh, yes, I think that's more reasonable then. Why do you have 2 units of temperature? 'Cause ours is better. What? Then whose? Look, we shouldn't discuss units of measure used on Earth. It's a sore subject, 'cause the world wants the Americans to change, and we tell them to shove it. Shove what? It. Just, I'll try to explain it later. She shook her head slowly, clearly confused. Then he perked up. My implant paint. My costumes are ready. Come on, Emily, you gotta come watch me dance. He sighed out and jumped and rushed out, and she had to follow him, quickly putting her mask back on. He was halfway down the street when she saw a squad of Phyllis enter the Cultural Dance Center, however. She gasped softly as she feared they might be looking to settle the score with the space trucker. Billy Bob, she cried out and cursed. It seemed like the dance competition was going to be a lot more competitive than she thought. And so ends another chapter in the adventures of Billy Bob Space Trucker. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, Jon Creighton, W.R.E, 050, Dragzoon W.R.E, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.